Go ahead.
I want to win a book. No, I'm one of April's authors, but I'm at the other end of the spectrum. I love social media, and I have. But the problem is, I just opened my Twitter account, right? How do you get followers and all of that? What I did for Facebook, it's called a fan page, so I did one, and that's okay. But I did a Facebook ad, and I got a whole bunch of people to like me. But
that's likable. I think
and I'm not afraid to talk, and I love to read, and I've done a bunch of readings, but it doesn't translate into traffic. It doesn't translate into sales. Maybe the book is terrible, but
no,
it's not.
A good book.
It's a good book. And so what do you suggest for getting this? You know, you tell us what to put out there, but how do we get everybody to come and say hello?
I just want to say it just takes time. It takes more time than we think that it's going to take, and just to try to be patient and not, definitely don't take it personal.
Oh, I think
yeah,
personally,
definitely don't. But, you know, do probably what you're doing, follow people that you're interested in, and just realize it's going to take time.
Mm-hmm. The quantity of followers, especially on Twitter, like, is not as important as the quality of them. You want to make sure that they're interested in you and in your book or your product. If you're not an author, if you're, you know,
right.
It's more important to focus on the relationship.
Well, I have 6, and I think 4 of them are interested in me.
Great. just maintain your percentage.
It's a really good percentage.
Yeah.
It's a really good percentage.
You're killing it.
There are methods for getting Twitter followers. You know, just for starters, I mean, make sure you have a follow me Twitter button that's really prominent on your blog or your website. Have your Twitter account posted on your Facebook page. Follow people, and don't just follow anyone. You can follow people you're interested in, but also follow writers, and to find them, you know, do searches on writing hashtags, like hashtag am writing and hashtag books and writing, and there are lists of writing hashtags if you just Google writing hashtags, and if you search those, you'll find the writers. And follow some of those writers, and maybe about 1/3 of them will follow you back. They're not all going to follow you back. You can always unfollow ones that you're not interested in following, and just slowly build that way.
I was going to say something, but I forgot what it was. It's really smart, though. I'm sorry. I'm going to go back to me. Yeah.
Friday Reads is another good hashtag.
Oh, I was going to say, it's important, you know, obviously all these things, especially as you incorporate more aspects into your life and how you talk about yourself and your projects. I think it's important to obviously learn as you go, but it's worth it. Like Kat was saying earlier about Pinterest, it's worth it to take some time to focus on that platform and to figure out how you want to use it, and to know that your time setting it up and figuring it out is going to come back tenfold. It's worth it, you know, to figure out, well, how do I use this, rather than just maintaining, you know, oh, well, I want to use Twitter, you know, say I want to have like 2 tweets a day or whatever it is, and like it's good to have a regimen, and I definitely agree that it's important to have like a regular kind of blogging schedule if you do that, but I do think that it's worth it to figure it out, you know, like what do people do, what is a hashtag, you know, how can I use lists, and how do I want to start my conversations on this platform. I think that's always worthwhile to take some time, you know, instead of going out Friday night or whatever it is, you know, make some time to figure it out as much as to use it, you know, if that makes sense. And you want a book, so.
Yeah. Another person in the back?
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I have a comment, a suggestion, and a question. So in the interest of openness about commentary and feedback, because nobody gets through this world without people having opinions, and now we're all on the internet and we know that. You totally triggered me with your comment about I don't trust a writer who doesn't want to write. I have at least 3 publishers that I'm pretty sure are out of integrity with me on contracts, and I have to track that down. I mean, there's lots going on in everybody's life these days, and writers are making less, mostly, than they ever did before. And remember that I'm one of your writer members, so in case you can't tell. And there's a sense in which there's a power dynamic between writers and publishers that I'm not always sure publishers think through and understand clearly. So I just want to say that in so many words in this room. I would rather be writing my next book than blog posts, although I can blog. I would rather be delving into things that are going to create the next thing that I'll be known for, and I just want to say that. So, having said that, my suggestion is sometimes it's a lot easier to answer questions in blogs. So I would suggest that if you've got a recalcitrant writer, really encourage and maybe help Twitter run questions into them, or Facebook, like what do your fans want to know from you, writer? And maybe that would be easier for somebody to step into and do. And also to understand the interpersonal pieces of social networking, because for a writer who's a little bit of an introvert, that you're opening your life and your opinions out to the world can be frightening. Not just I'm not used to it, but it can be really scary to some people. So that might be a way to take those steps. And I want to know what you all think about Google Plus and about Red Room.
Oh, I love Red Room, but I will say that Google Plus. So I personally thought Google Plus was pretty boring. I don't know. Like, it seems like a place where people post things and don't really talk to each other, and that's basically what I do now. But the reason that I use Google Plus, and I wouldn't use any other social network in that way, by the way, the reason that I do use it is because at a previous NCBPMA meeting we did, was the last one? Yeah. I don't even know anymore. Time is so BEA next week. No, is Google Plus search engine results and Google Plus work together now, where Google is concerned. So if you are posting on Google Plus, you could be affecting search engine results in the places that you want to be affecting it. And you could also be affecting them in ways you don't want it to. So I use Google Plus, even though it's my personal profile. I pretty much just use it for work. I just post things. Occasionally I post things I'm just interested in. But most of the time it's things like, here's a really great smoothie recipe we have on NAB Communities. Here's an expert talking about how to heal your joints, whatever. So yeah, Google Plus is an important part of search engine features on Google, and everybody uses Google. So yeah.
I have a couple comments about Google Plus. I use it, but I don't use it as much as I use Facebook, and I tend to double post the same things on both platforms. There was an article published recently that said Google Plus is a ghost town. So according to the statistics, people don't spend much time on Google Plus. They're spending a few minutes compared to hours on Facebook, and most people, it was at least half that join Google Plus never use it again. So it's definitely not competing with Facebook. But one thing I learned is that photographers prefer Google Plus, especially professional photographers, because any photos you post on Facebook are the property of Facebook. Any photos you post on Google Plus are still your property. So for photos, people prefer Google Plus.
I was just, Samantha, were you going to say something, or was it a time issue? Or?
No.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
I do have something to share, though. Another really good way to build Twitter followers is Tweetpea.
Is what?
It's called Tweetpea.
Tweetpea?
Like TP with a W?
TWEEPI.
Oh.
And you can see who isn't following you back. You can get the profiles of your followers to see their influence, to see how many followers they have. You can flush followers.
I will say that the last meeting that NCBPMA had, so Janet Fouts came and talked, and she did a really wonderful presentation on how to get the most out of kind of not every social media outlet, obviously, but she talked at length about Google Plus, and she's very much an expert on the subject, and I recorded that, and you can go to litscene.com and type in either Janet Fouts or NCBPMA, and you can watch that, and I put links to all the things that she talked about. She really shared a lot of great tips, and I would just kind of point you there, because you probably get a lot more out of that than maybe we talk about something else.
Yeah.
I don't want to brush it off.
Where does the video live?
So litscene.com, SEEN, but you could probably just Google like Janet Fouts. Her last name is Fouts, and NCBPMA, and I'm sure the videos would come up with YouTube results, and also the Lit Scene article, which has them all as a show broken up.
She's written like 3 books about Twitter.
Yeah, she's about Twitter, and she's doing something about Google plus right now, I think, and I got a lot out of that. There's a whole systems websites that I haven't incorporated yet that I intend to research more from that conversation. Did anybody have anything to say specifically about Red Room or about that? Okay, yeah, I don't.
I just want to say one more thing about Facebook. There's an article yesterday, the day before, in the Daily Beast about how to get your post to show up in people's news feeds, because now this has been going on for a long time, but people don't see every post that all of their friends post, and even in the real time, I forget the name of that other feed, even in that, not every single post shows up. But it defaults to your news feed and only the most important posts come up. So there was an interesting article, and you can Google it, about what can help you get your posts show up into someone's newsfeed. And also, I think this is new, but they have promotional posts now. You can pay like $5 or whatever, you set the price, and then that can also help it show up in people's news feeds. But that article is worth checking out, because just because you post on a Facebook doesn't mean anyone's seeing it.
As far as Red Room is concerned, I really like Red Room a lot. They're a local organization, which makes it really special, and it's great in terms of support for fellow writers and editors and everything else. I think that Red Room is one to pay attention to. It's nice too because you can also make an online profile. You can post articles to there. And I've noticed, I have an author who's pretty active on Red Room, and I've noticed that she, when you Google her name or her book, her Red Room links come up pretty high in the search engine results, so they're pretty well optimized. But another thing that's nice about them is that I know that there are writers within Red Room who are well connected themselves and who write for different organizations. So in terms of networking, if you're promoting a book and you have all of these writers who you've become friends with on Red Room, and they're writing for AOL and Huffington Post and New York Times and everything else, that's a pretty good network to have at your disposal. So I think Red Room is maybe one that people don't talk about a lot, but I'm glad you brought it up because it's a really good, very supportive website and organization.
It's especially good if you're an author and you don't have a website and you don't maybe want to maintain your own back end. It's great for that. I go to a lot of readings and I film people and then I link to their websites, and there are a lot of authors who don't want to maintain a website, and so they can have that platform where they just load up their profile and they use that, and you can blog straight onto your Red Room account and stuff. I don't personally use it. I spend too much time kind of running Litsying, the website that I do, to worry about my own kind of personal thing. So I don't use it, but I know a lot of people who just use it in lieu of setting up a website and running it themselves, and I think that it's really helpful for that. They also do prompts and stuff too, which is pretty cool if you want to engage with it in that way. Yeah.
In relation to having writers be connected to other important or influential writers, do you think it's worthwhile for people to be using LinkedIn and connecting with people there, or is that kind of more businessy or just for jobs, or what do you think?
Stacey, do you have
I'm sort of reluctantly on LinkedIn, so I'm not the right person. It doesn't come into play. I don't suggest that for use by any of our authors. I think that's really for like business, job seekers.
It's okay. I use LinkedIn quite a bit, and I actually didn't use it before. This is another shout out to NCBPMA. Maybe like a year and a half ago or so, we were at an NCBPMA meeting. We had Nettie Hartsock here. That's right, yeah. And she was all about LinkedIn, and she does a lot of book publicity, and she really sold me on it, and I started using it more. One of the reasons is because LinkedIn is also, again, search engine optimized, so if you have things that are public and out, that's a good way or a good place to have those things be found. But then another thing about LinkedIn too is you don't know who's searching for experts and where they're searching, and LinkedIn is a great place to find experts, and more writers are finding people there for speaking events or for interviews or whatever. So I think it's actually good to use your LinkedIn profile. I don't think you have to check it daily, which I think actually Nettie suggested. I went through that period of like, I'm going to check it daily and I'm going to post things, and I don't do that. But there's groups on LinkedIn that are really helpful. One of the things that Talia, my coworker, has used that's really cool is you can ask questions on LinkedIn to the community and get really great suggestions. Like Jennifer posted, I have a group on LinkedIn, it's Bay Area Book Publishers, and Jennifer, who's just walked back in, posted something the other day about how she was looking for a printing service in the Bay Area who could do such and such, and she got a few different suggestions. So I think it's really helpful in that way. Another one to look at is Help a Reporter Out, which Kat Sanborn told me about. I think it's helpareporterout.com. Haro, H-A-R-O, that's right. And that's a good one too. You are going to get emails daily, sometimes inundated with things that aren't necessarily related if you do the free service, but there's paid versions as well. And that's basically like you get an email in your inbox that says, hey, we're looking for somebody who can talk about, I don't know, spider webs. I don't know where that came from. But yes, so, that's another good resource as well.